Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope you're having a good day so far. Thank you for tuning in. A few things. I wanted to get to some of these stories yesterday, but the first story that I covered, I spent way longer than what I initially intended to spend. So, these are the stories from yesterday. And like I said, this is why I started recording 5 days a week instead of three, because there's just so much to talk about. And I don't have time to get to everything. So, the first story I wanted to talk about is over the summer of 2020 and even up until now, we've heard about defunding the police, and we all know without a doubt that it is the left and the Democrats who have been calling to defund the police. However, now they're trying to rewrite history and spin that, and they are
But first tonight,
claiming
America's cities,
that the GOP played a role in defund the police. And of course, that's a lie. And Hannity speaks about it on his show. And this is an article written by Joshua Dudzik. I guess is how you say it. Um, I hate all these pop ups. So, after a year of violence and mayhem throughout the nation, almost no one in the U.S. supports the insane defund the police movement, Hannity host Sean Hannity exclaimed Tuesday night. Hannity asserted that the violent scene in American cities is out of control, and instead of cracking down and restoring law and order, Democrats have slashed police budgets, and officers are now being told to stand back and stand down when protecting Americans. Citing new Harvard, Harris, and Pew polls, which show only 18% of Americans support the defund the police movement and 70% of African Americans have a favorable view of law enforcement, Hannity claimed Democrats have sat idly by and spent the past year vilifying the police, defunding, and dismantling. Hannity went on to slam Democrats and the Biden administration over recent suggestions that Republicans were actually those responsible for the defund the police movement. They're Democrats saying they're GOP, the ones that want to defund the police. Okay, I'm not making this up, he said. The comments come following recent statements from Biden administration and Democrat lawmakers suggesting Americans have been misguided on who actually spearheaded the push for defunding police Democrats and subsequent historic rise in violent crimes across the nation. Okay, hang on. They are Democrats saying they are GOP. Oh, okay. I think he's saying that Democrats that claim to be Republicans, they say they're Republican, but they are actually Democrats. That's interesting. I'm glad they brought that up. I have to talk about that in a second. Where are the so-called fact checkers at the Washington Post or fake news CNN or PolitiFact? Maybe they want to weigh in on this one, Hannity said. Just might be the most blatant lie in modern American politics. But you don't have to take my word for it because we actually have proof. It's called videotape. Thank God for videotape. The radical socialist base of the Democratic Party demanded that law enforcement be defunded, Hannity argued. They did it. Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they all agreed, he said. Local Democrats on the city state level then ripped billions of dollars out of police budgets. New York, Los Angeles, and Minneapolis. That's just a start. Yeah, there was actually just on CNN last week in Minneapolis, they were talking about how they defunded the police and they're like looking into like adding social workers, but that it's really caused a problem in crime. And they simultaneously said that they were defunding the police, but they're short staffed and they need to hire more police. So I don't know where they're at with that. They reduced the size of their police force, they let violent criminals out of jail, they stopped prosecuting a multitude of very serious crimes, including violent crimes, he argued. And predictably, violent crime is skyrocketing. And now Democrats, they want to blame Republicans. Okay, our memories might be short, but they're not that short. And the Democratic Party thinks that we, the American people, must be that gullible and stupid. Yeah, they don't want you to believe your lying eyes. Don't believe what you witness us saying on camera. that we are going to defund the police and replace them with social workers because that will work out real well. But that's just what the Democrats do. They lie and they rewrite history. Speaking of Democrats claiming that they are Republicans, Kimberly Klacik. I don't know if anybody knows who she is. She ran for a seat in Baltimore, I think it was, and she made this real viral uh, campaign ad where she walked through the streets and she showed what it was really like in that city and why she was fighting to win the seat as a Republican because she really wanted to make a change for the city. Here lately, her and Candace Owens have been having some beef, and Candace Owens went on camera and she talked about the things that they talked about back and forth, and it led to this whole deep dive, a rabbit hole for Candace Owens looking into some stuff, and she found some very odd things about Kimberly Klacik. And it would seem to me, and I verified everything that Candace Owens said. I looked up everything that she talked about. I verified it myself before I decided to even ever say anything about it. I thought maybe I'd do a whole episode on it, but it's really not enough to do an entire episode on. But the things that the fact that she might be a Democrat and saying she's a Republican to raise money for her campaign and then funnel it to Democrats is what it seems like. Um, if you pull up her Federal Election Commission, so she has to report all the money she makes and everywhere she spends the money. She made $8.2 million and the total spent was 7.5 million, okay? And you can browse these disbursements and you can see what she paid and to who she paid it to, right? And so Candace Owens talks about how she went through and she was looking at some of the stuff that she paid. And there is one right here, Pearl Events, for a meet and greet on November 5th of 2020 for $119 plus thousand dollars. And Candace talked about how she thought that was odd for it to be so expensive for a meet and greet. And then she thought, well, maybe she just paid for the whole entire thing at the very end for all the meet and greets at one time. But you can scan through all of her other disbursements and you can find other meet and greets. And I know there's some here. You can find other like this meet and greet with Matthew 1600 on September 30th was only $2,200. Most of the other meet and greets that she did were, around that amount. This meet and greet at Iverness on September 24th was only $774. So it's just very, very strange, right? So when you go to look at this meet and greet here, you can pull it up, and it's through Pearl Events, right? And it's in Maryland. And I don't know what all of that is, but however, you can pull up documents for the corporation. So this is the corporate charter approval sheet. These are all the documents. It gives the address and everything, and it tells you what it is because, obviously if you have a business, you have to register it, right? But that's not it. Here, this is through maryland.gov, and this is the information for filing for a business. So you have Pearl Events LLC, you have the principal address, the resident agent, but the status is that it's forfeited and it is not in good standing. Why? Because they weren't filing their taxes. Dusky Holman is the owner of this business, and he is a lawyer. However, he is a suspended license. He cannot practice law, which is very odd as well. I mean, it's just odd. And not only that, I have my notes here too. So let's see. Dusky Holman, he's a lawyer. He's been suspended. He's not allowed to practice. Then there's also another company um, owned by, oh, by the way, this Pearl Events, it's a real estate company. It's not even a company that would typically deal with meet and greets, so I'm not sure what that's about. Fox and Lion LLC, which is owned by Andy Pierre. And he has this business here. Let me pull it up. This is his company here, Fox and Lion Communications. He does ad campaigns, but he does a lot of ad campaigns for Democrats. And it says here that he helped get the Honorable Judge Talmadge Branch elected, which actually was impossible because this business was only started in April of 2020, so he couldn't have done that. And you can click through all of these different people. The Honorable Cherie Sample Hughes. And what I found interesting about this is when you click on this person, it takes you here, Cherie Sample Hughes, House of Delegates. And it takes you to Act Blue, which is usually where you would send Democrat funds to. That's why it's weird. And say I took screenshots of it. So Act Blue is usually where people donate money for Democrats, right? And that's why it's weird. Now, Andy Pierre, he ran for the Democratic Party in the Maryland House of Delegates in District 45 in 2018, but he lost. So you have to ask yourself, as a Republican, why are you paying someone who's a Democrat that just opened a business several months earlier to run campaign ads for you, right? I mean, why would you? But then, and I don't know if I kept the picture of it or not. I may not have. I might have to pull it up. His business, Fox and Lion Communications, it is also not in good standing for not filing taxes. So, there you go. Another one. And what she did with Fox and Lion is she paid $75,000 3 times. And let's see. One customer, got donations for the campaign through Act Blue. His personal address was listed for the business location. He failed to file tax returns. And so 3 companies that Kim Klacik is associated with are not filing taxes, which is weird because the other company is her charity, which is called Potential Me. Now, it's been open since 2013. She only made 3 tax filings, and she claimed that she made no money except for 1 year where she made $6,000, but they used that money to help girls with their makeup for prom. There's no website. If you try to go, it's a broken link. There is no website. She says that the women are vulnerable, so the website was closed to protect the women, and that she told Candace that her looking into it was making it worse for the women. She claims that they've placed over 200 women into jobs. They collect clothes and then they sell them on eBay, and then they use the money to give to women in need. And then there's this whole other thing where when Kimberly Klacik went on The View, they were really, really rude to her. And after she was cut off, one of the ladies was like, "Is it September?" And most people probably didn't catch that. I myself didn't catch that. But apparently, Kimberly Klacik used to be a stripper named September. Allegedly, I don't know. This is all alleged. Her husband, Jeff Klasick, he was the manager of that strip club. Yeah, it was Sunny on The View, called her by her stage name. Kimberly supposedly brought a lot of women into the strip club to work. And vulnerable women tend to work at strip clubs. Like I said, they raised $8.2 million for her campaign based on family values. I was unable to find any of the pictures of her in the strip club. I looked, I couldn't find them, but Candace says she's seen them. And there was a picture of her holding a bunch of singles in front of the stripper pole. I couldn't find that. And Candace claims, I cannot prove this either. Candace claims that she spoke to a stripper who used to work with Kimberly, and this stripper claims that the campaign money was being used to do cocaine in the strip club, and supposedly she has receipts to prove this. I don't know. So just speaking about Republicans, actually being Democrats in disguise to funnel money to the Democrat Party, I thought this might be something to bring up. You can go look on Instagram for Candace Owens for the video, and you can go watch the whole thing.
Since when
And
is winning a medal while representing your country
oh,
and
come on,
having the national anthem play?
sorry. And you can go and uh, verify all of this information. That's just kind of a quick rundown of it. I didn't want to get all into it because it's not really the focus of the story today. Um, Next story that I wanted to get to yesterday was about Gwen Berry, who turned away from the flag, and she said, "I never said that I hated the country." Berry's demonstration over the weekend overshadowed her third place finish in the achievement of making the Olympic team. Meanwhile, talking about this girl, there are veterans calling for her to be kicked off the team for her display of disrespect to the flag, the national anthem, and the country. And I agree. She should be kicked off. So this says Gwen Berry, a U.S. Olympic hammer thrower who came under fire for her demonstration during the national anthem at track and field trials, dismissed assertions that she hates the country she represents. Berry finished in third place at the trials and made the team set to head to Tokyo next month for the coronavirus delayed Olympic Games. But she drew negative attention when she turned away from the American flag as the national anthem blared and later would cover her face with a shirt that read Activist Athlete. Amid scrutiny and boisterous claims she shouldn't be representing the U.S. in the Games, Berry fired back in an interview with the Black News Channel on Tuesday. "I never said that I didn't want to go to the Olympic Games. That's why I competed and got third and made the team." Well, yeah, you want to go because you want to win, but you hate the country that you're playing for. "I never said that I hated the country. I never said that. All I said was I respect my people enough to not stand for or acknowledge something that disrespects them. I love my people, point blank, period." Yeah, no one said you actually explicitly stated that you hate the country. Your actions show that you hate the country and the flag. That is clear in the actions that she made. Berry said she specifically has an issue with a line in the Star-Spangled Banner which says alludes to catching and beating slaves. No, it doesn't. The third stanza of the song reads, "And where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country, should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." Well, let's just do what I like to always do, and let's go get the definition. I'm pretty sure I believe this is a religious definition of being a slave to sin. Um, but let's just see. Let's see what this says here. History and verses. Okay, so what are the forgotten stanzas? Okay, well that doesn't tell me nothing. Good, you didn't do a good job at all. Let's try it this way. What is the meaning of the third stanza of the Star-Spangled Banner. Let's see what this says. I don't know. Within the meaning of lines 5 and 6 of this verse and has become the topic of the day. What exactly does Francis Scott Key mean by the words, specifically the hireling and slave? No one knows because Key is dead and cannot explain what he meant in his own words. So we have to try to interpret them based on who he was as a person. I did some research and there are many articles on the subject, almost all of them calling it a racist verse. Now I know this is shocking to almost everyone reading this, and some of you may have stopped reading because this is not what you want to hear about a national anthem. Okay, I don't want to read all that. Why can't somebody just give a simple explanation? Okay. I don't care about pictures of it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this isn't telling me anything either. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's see. Verse 2, verse 3. Okay. Francis Scott Key describes the British as arrogant and boastful in the lyrics, that band who so vauntingly swore. He is venting his anger at the British with the foul footsteps, pollution lyrics, inferring that the British poisoned the ground on which they walked. But the poison and corruption had been washed away by the blood of the British. The Star-Spangled Banner lyrics, The Hireling, refers to the British use of mercenaries or German Hessians in the American War of Independence. The Star-Spangled Banner lyrics and slave is a direct reference to the British practice of impressment or kidnapping American seamen and enforcing them into service on British man-of-war ships. This was an important cause of the War of 1812. Francis Scott Key then describes the Star-Spangled Banner as a symbol of triumph over all adversity. Well, there you go. Right there. It tells you right there. It's not a racist verse, and I think most people know that. They're just being dishonest if they say that it is. Berry said, if you know your history, you know the full song of the national anthem. The third paragraph speaks to slaves in America, our blood being slain all over the floor. It's disrespectful, and it does not speak for black Americans. It's obvious, there's no question. Well, clearly, Miss Berry, you don't know your history. And when you go to research history, you cannot look, which is how I came across a couple of those, you cannot look at social justice websites because they tend to rewrite history. You have to actually go to websites that are really like American Historama. People that they have no title of socialist or social justice in their name. You don't want those in the names of the websites when you're really trying to research something. Now, I thought it was about being a slave to sin and being broken free because now here we are in this country where we can worship God as we see fit. You could probably interpret it as that as well. According to Stevenson University, a debate has raged about the meaning of the line hireling and slave and whether it flatly has racist tones or a rhetorical tool. It is not the first time Berry has protested during Team USA events. Earlier in the week, she raised a fist in protest before one event. She also raised a fist during the national anthem after winning gold in the 2019 Pan American Games. Why is this girl still even allowed to compete? You're supposed to have reverence and respect for the country that you're representing. And if you don't, go move somewhere else and represent those places. That's all I can say. Last story. So we know that Trump is going to the border.
Tarrant County, Texas Sheriff Bill Waybourne.
I hate that. Okay. But the sheriff of Tarrant County in Texas, Bill Waybourne, he's meeting with Trump at the border, and he has talked about some of the stuff he wants to talk about. What he does specifically mention is how fentanyl is a clear and present threat to Americans as the border crisis grows. So this article was written by Talia Kaplan for Fox News, and it says, a sheriff in Texas who will be meeting with Donald Trump on Wednesday, that's today, yesterday, that was yesterday, today, my days run together, during the former president's trip to the southern border, said he will be discussing the threat of fentanyl and noted that since February, Texas law enforcement has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the state of New York. Okay. Tarrant County Sheriff Bill Waybourne made the comments on Fox and Friends on Wednesday, adding that there has been a 50% rise in fatal overdoses in this county. Waybourne stressed that fentanyl is a clear and present threat. He made the statements ahead of Trump's scheduled visit to the U.S.-Mexico border with Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott. Trump and Abbott will participate in a town hall on Hannity, airing at 9 p.m. on Fox News Channel Wednesday. See, I'm pre-recording this, so this is why it's reading as this. Trump described the border as an unmitigated disaster zone. The president said in a press release that he had accepted Abbott's invitation to visit the decimated border, a deteriorating situation that he attributed to the Biden administration's decisions to reverse many of his immigration policies. Former Vice President Biden scrapped a number of his predecessor's immigration policies, which included wall construction and having asylum seekers remain in Mexico instead of in the U.S. while they wait for their cases to be heard. The moves have led to a record surge in migrants, including unaccompanied minors, that has strained capacity at immigration facilities. My briefing will be specifically that what is coming across the border doesn't stay on the border, Waybourne told host Ainsley Earhart, noting that one of the major hubs for drugs and human trafficking is the Dallas-Fort Worth area where it goes north and up. He said that he will be specifically talking about the threat of fentanyl to our country with Trump on Wednesday, calling the threat incredibly serious. What we're seeing is even the low-level dealers have ample amount of fentanyl that they're lacing heroin in. They're lacing designer drugs that the kids often use, Waybourne explained, noting that those between the ages of 16 and 24 are who we're losing to this. He stressed that fentanyl looks like a safe drug because they're using pill presses, and it looks like this isn't any more dangerous than marijuana or a prescription drug, but it's deadly. Trump's visit to the southern border comes 5 days after Vice President Kamala Harris visited El Paso, Texas, nearly 100 days after being appointed by former Vice President Biden to address the immigration crisis at the southern border. Yeah, she went to El Paso, which is not even at the border crisis area. During a press conference, Harris touted progress made by the Biden administration in tackling the migrant surge despite inheriting a tough situation due to the disastrous effects of the Trump administration's border policies. Okay. When asked why she visited El Paso instead of areas that had been more acutely hit, like the Rio Grande Valley sector, Harris explained that El Paso was where a number of Trump policies, like the Remain in Mexico policy and child separation policies, were implemented. Reacting to Harris's statements on Friday, Waybourne said, we're having huge loads of drugs that are being seized, so there hasn't been any progress. The border is open, he stressed, warning that we have got a crisis on the border and that crisis is growing throughout America. Let's see.
Former President Trump will visit the border today for the first time since leaving office. President Trump will tour McAllen, Texas, with Governor Greg Abbott, about 800 miles farther south than Vice President Harris's visit last week. The former president's visit comes as immigration agents find and they rescue, look at that, a 2-year-old little boy abandoned by the side of the road in Mexico. Tarrant County, Texas Sheriff Bill Waybourne is joining the former president on his trip today, and he joins us now. Good morning to you, Sheriff.
Good morning, Ainsley, and God bless you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, God bless you. I pray that he always keeps you and your men and women safe. Tell me what your role is today. You'll be meeting with President Trump.
I will be, and my briefing will be specifically what is coming across the border doesn't stay on the border. We know it goes out, and one of the major hubs, unfortunately, is the Dallas-Fort Worth area where it goes north and up and out, and it's the drug issues and human trafficking issues, but specifically I'll be talking about the threat of fentanyl to our country. It is a clear and present threat. And since February this year, Texas law enforcement has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the state of New York. And if that isn't shocking enough, we're seeing a 50% increase in fatal overdoses in the greater Tarrant County area.
And
so I'll be talking about that threat.
Okay, tell us, how does that, to the average viewer at home, they might say, oh, well, I'm not going to see this fentanyl. But we interviewed some parents recently, and they talked about how their young children, really young teenagers, died because they took one drug, they thought it was one thing, and it was something else. It was laced with another drug. How serious is this?
It's incredibly serious, and what we're seeing is even the low-level dealers have ample amount of fentanyl that they're lacing heroin. They're lacing designer drugs that the kids often use, and we're seeing this population between the ages of 16 and 24 being a complete, that age group right there is who we're losing to this. And what I would say to the parents, whether they're sitting in New York or they're sitting in California, folks, please invade the space of your children. Know who they're talking to. See what's going on social media, because this looks like a safe drug. They're using pill presses, and it looks like, oh, this isn't any more dangerous than marijuana
Right.
or a prescription drug, and it's deadly.
So scary, so scary for parents. Almost a 300% rise in fentanyl seizures this May compared to last May. Now, Kamala Harris, listen to this. She's saying it's not their fault. They inherited this situation.
As you know, we inherited a tough situation. I've looked at a system where people have been housed in inhumane conditions over the last many years.
Really quickly, has anybody ever noticed the jackets that she wears? They just make her look like a box. Like she just doesn't have a figure. I was just noticing that she kind of looks like just a box, like not even a human being. I don't know. Sorry, I just had to point that out.
Asylum system that has been broken, and that needs to be reconstructed. And in 5 months, we've made progress, but there's still much more work to be done. But we've made progress.
What's your reaction to that, Sheriff?
Well, my reaction is very clear. On the streets of Texas today in January, methamphetamine, another deadly drug that's laced with fentanyl, was going for $50 a gram. Today, you can buy it for $15 to $20 a gram. The incredible seizures of drugs, the things that we have caught coming across the border, and the things that we've caught in country up in the Tarrant County and Dallas County area, we're having huge loads of drugs that are being seized. So there hasn't been any progress. The border is open, and we're talking about the kids coming across, and we have got a crisis on the border. And that crisis is growing throughout America, and we've got to draw a line in the sand someplace and take care of it. We've got some heroic border sheriffs down here doing an incredible job with their federal partners and DPS, but it's no.
Sheriff, we really appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day with President Trump and with the governor.
I mean, it's just ridiculous sitting there watching those pictures and the video of these people just, traipsing across the border with no consequences, and the danger that they're putting their kids in, being out in the heat. I don't know what kind of food they have, how much water they have access to. Just it's dangerous for people to be doing that. And clearly, they're not too concerned about their children, or they would not be taking them on this kind of journey. Which, I mean, like, where do they go to the bathroom, these little kids with the babies that are, still being, taking milk or baby food or needing diapers? What are they doing? How are they doing this? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's very irritating, and I hate seeing it. And this crap that Kamala says they've made progress. No, we've digressed quite a bit since Trump has left office. And I live in Texas, so I see a lot more than maybe some other people would see, because I live in a state that's right on the border. And I would have to say he is right. The Dallas-Fort Worth is probably the hardest hit for a lot of the people that coming from Mexico and even El Salvador and Honduras. They come here, and a lot of them just typically just sit and stay in Texas. We have a lot of not just migrants in general, but illegal as well. So it's a pretty bad situation. I just don't like it when they try to like rewrite things and we inherited this problem from Trump. No, Trump inherited a really bad problem and he fixed it as best as he could in the 4 years that he was allotted with all the opposition that he was receiving from the left in the media. And he did a really, really good job. And I think we saw a difference here in Texas because of it. And it's now all of a sudden that he's not in office anymore. You just have this huge surge that is just, I mean, it's like the state's just being overrun and taken over. And it's very it's not a good thing. And it really affects the citizens of Texas a lot economically and based on jobs and things like that. That affects us. And it's not really fair that we have to fight to be able to have jobs and we're having to compete with people who will take lower wages just so they can stay um, under the table and get paid cash since they're not legal citizens to be able to work. It's not really fair. It's it's a bit annoying actually. Anyway, that's all for today. A little short episode, just a few stories that I didn't have time to get to yesterday, and I just wanted to cover some of that stuff. So please join me on my Facebook, Lauren Collins. I just got to say something. Send me an email, gotta say something 21@gmail.com. I'm always interested in hearing what people have to say. If there's a story you'd like me to cover, you can listen to the audio only podcast on Google Podcast, Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and other platforms. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and even share it and get other people to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. As always, I highly recommend you go check out the Scott Ford Show, Isaac Hayes with the Cajun Conservative, and his Christian podcast, Brothers Just Searching, my friend Christy at the Lennar Score on Facebook, and Christy's Closet with a K on YouTube, and TV's Rob is Unwoke. And also, join my subreddit, Gotta Say Something. No, sorry, it's just Gotta Say Something. That's my subreddit. I'm new to the Reddit community. Anyway, yeah, my subreddit is just Gotta Say Something. Anyways, thanks again, and I hope you have a good rest of the day and I will see you next time. God bless.